Hey Crafty Mavens, it's Vanessa here with a Stash It process video today, and I have gone ahead and pulled some pieces from the January Kit It Up stash kit that I put together, and I will have the video for that linked below if you want to see what was in the original stash kit. So I'm just showing you here the things that I pulled from that original kit, and I am focusing on the blue and greens from that kit for the layout today. So the first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this white piece of cardstock, and I have gone ahead and gessoed this off camera, and I'm going to take some of my Distress Oxide inks, and here I am going to do probably the easiest mixed media type of background that you can do, and that is simply to take and put some color on the page from my ink pad and take a wet paintbrush and just drag that color across the page. So it does not get any easier than this. I am basically just striping on some of that color with the ink pad, and then I am brushing my paintbrush through that color and dragging it across the page. I know that for this layout I'm going to have sort of a diagonal design, and so I am putting strips of color in the blue and green across the page in the middle, and then on the top left and bottom right I will have strips of color, but they won't go all the way across the page because that is going to be where my clusters are going to go. So here you see I am just striping on that color. I can add as much color as I want, and if I think it's too dark I can go back with my paper towel and dab up some of that color. I am going to also add a few splatters with the blue and a smaller paintbrush just to add again some additional texture. But when it comes to a mixed media background, this could not be easier. You don't even have to have watercolor or anything like that. If you have just ink pads in your stash, you can easily use that on your cardstock and it will do the same thing as sort of a watercolor or a paint. And so there you see I've added my splatters. Now to finish off and add just a little bit more texture to my background, I am going to take this stamp, and it is just a script stamp and some additional Distress Oxide ink, and I'm just going to stamp it around. This is just going to add a little bit more interest to the background, a little bit of texture in the background, and most of this you will not actually see in the final layout. A lot of it gets covered up, but it does peek out here and there, so I like the added sort of detail and interest it gives the page. For this next piece here, I've taken a cut file, and unfortunately this came in a kit, so I don't actually know where this cut file is from, but it's just a heart that sort of has a patchwork kind of feel to it, and I'm going to back the entire thing here with this green and white polka dotted pattern paper. So there you see I've gone ahead and done that. Now I'm taking and I'm going to matte my photos. So I have this piece of blue that I know I want to use as one of the mattes, but I also have this wood grain, and it is a sort of a cream and kind of taupe almost colored wood grain, and so I know that I want to use this pattern paper for both a matte for my photos as well as to matte the entire layout. So I've gone ahead and taken the center out of that wood grain paper, and I will matte the entire layout on it, and then you're going to see here I'm going to take my two photos and matte them first on that wood grain and then on that blue piece of pattern paper. Now I am using two photos on this layout, and they're going to go sort of, one's going to overlap the other, and they're going to go pretty much side by side on the layout. And both of the photos are of the Contempra at Walt Disney World. It is probably one of my, or probably my personal favorite hotel at the Magic Kingdom. And so, or I shouldn't say the Magic Kingdom, it's the Walt Disney World. And so I am documenting sort of, for me, one of my favorite childhood memories is getting to stay at this hotel. And so we had gone on a trip to Walt Disney World, and we were staying in the Disney Vacation Club members sort of part of the Contempora. So I'm able to stand on the balcony of my room and take a picture over toward the Contempora of the main building. So I got one of the building itself and then one with the monorail going through the hotel. And so for me growing up, this was the hotel that we stayed at probably the most when we came to Disney. We came several times throughout my childhood. Almost every year we had come to Florida, and generally speaking, most of our vacations we stayed here at the Contempora. And back then there wasn't as many hotels to choose from. There was basically this one, the Polynesian and the Grand Floridian, and then they started building out all the other ones. And so this was our main hotel that we would stay at. And so it has always been my favorite. And so I'm kind of just documenting how much I love this hotel, and I love seeing that monorail go through the middle of the hotel, and that now that I have kids of my own and we get to go to Disney, how I love to be able to, make new memories with them and stay at our favorite hotel. My kids actually like the Wilderness Lodge the best, so that tends to be where we stay at. Or not the Wilderness Lodge, the Animal Kingdom Lodge. So we tend to stay there the most, but we every once in a while will come and stay at the Contempora. So basically that is what I'm documenting in these photos. So as you've watched me put this together, I've mounted those photos, which are going to go right in the center, and I've gone ahead and put my two clusters together. The clusters themselves are pretty simple. Most of this layout is pretty simple. I don't do too much layering and building up of the clusters. They have just a few elements from the bits and pieces that I pulled. I put that large heart right there in the center, and that is going to sort of tie my title together with an embellishment cluster there in the sort of, I guess you could call it the center of the layout, or in between the two photos at the very least. And I did not have all the letters that I needed in this thicker set, so luckily they're foam, and so I'm able to sort of cut a few of the numbers and other letters to put all the words together that I needed for this layout. And like I was talking about when I was saying about the two photos, this for me is a childhood memory that I wanted to document, and so that is why the layout is called Childhood Memories. I don't believe that I do it on camera. We'll see here in a second. I kind of forget. Off camera, I type out my journaling, which basically is just what I was telling you, how I love this hotel and it brings back lots of memories. And I put that down by the bottom right cluster is where my journaling is going to go. Now to finish up the clusters, I am just adding some enamel dots and some of these puffy stickers. I try to keep it consistent between each of the clusters, making sure that I use the same types of elements in each cluster. And I'm looking here to see if there's anything else that I want to add. But like I said, apart from adding my journaling, I don't add a whole bunch more to this. I add just a couple of these chipboard elements, I believe. At least I thought I did from this. Yes, I just put one up at that cluster, and I believe it says Wonder, because there's just something about Disney and the magic of Disney, and then this hotel, there's so many memories that come from this hotel. And as I do with most of my Disney layouts, I always have a Mickey head somewhere. So the finishing touch for this one is a little Mickey head over by the title. And with that, you will see the still photos. So be sure to like and subscribe to the Crafty Maven, and jump over to the Facebook group, and be sure to like this video and come back tomorrow for even more inspiration. So I will catch you guys on the next one. Bye-bye, everybody.